Hi guys and welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much to the developer of Full Metal Furies for this review copy. Remember, each month we give away a free game. I'm going to try and get a few copies of this one actually, so stay tuned. Full Metal Furies is a 4-player co-op action RPG come beat 'em up with bags of humour and a massive map consisting of several pathways and routes and enough crazy humour to last a lifetime. As you battle your first titan, you can't help but feel the bizarrely infectious game begin to get its hooks into you. But is this one a solid titanium or more of a tin can? Let's find out. Your ragtag troupe refer to themselves simply as the Furies, and are the self-appointed defenders of the universe. What exactly are they defending the world from? Titans. These fellas. The game is incredibly cutscene heavy, sometimes spot on, such as the interactions between your characters and the Titans, but at other times it just tries a little bit too hard, bombarding the player with a cutscene almost between every encounter. Thankfully you can skip these, and if you're a fan of story and character progression, these are generally well written and can be very funny. Despite the huge quantities of dialogue and story elements, expect to still feel like you've wandered into someone's psychosis. Whether it's random black holes, computers in the clouds, or the token cat who just happens to join your party. Story is amusing but can be quite overbearing and scores 14 out of 20. So what's it all about then? The first thing to note about gameplay is that it is an experience best enjoyed with a group of friends. Glenn and I piled a solid 5 hours in one go, which says two things about it really. Number one, it must be incredibly well designed, as we're used to tearing games apart and being bored after 5 minutes. And number two, we got serious issues. No, but seriously, it's a game that rewards skilled players like few others we've enjoyed, at the end of which you'll be far more adept as a player regardless of the numbers of upgrades purchased. Controlling one of the 4 refreshingly all-female cast of Furies, Alex the fighter, Meg the sniper, Erin the engineer, or Glenn's favourite Triss, the sentinel, you set out to brawl, shoot and dodge your way across the world map. Interestingly, the levels play out either as side-scrollers, but also sometimes vertically, as with older arcade titles. You may also find alternate routes, which is a nice addition. Each character has some unique abilities. Playing as the sniper, I was able to take distance shots with deadly accuracy. The negative was that I was locked into place while I reloaded. Early in the game I had the ability to evade using a grapple hook, but this proved tricky. As we earn more gold, the XP of the game, I was able to upgrade my abilities to include a shield dodge, rendering me briefly invulnerable. The other 2 starting skills was a triggered mine and a hugely powerful shot that also slows time, allowing accurate aiming. Glenn played as Triss, the giant shield-wielding sentinel. She could thrash enemies with the shield bash or unleash a powerful shout to knock enemies back and very often save my fragile life. Every skill you use in the game has a cooldown timer, which added a real layer of strategy to the experience and meant that you couldn't just spam your more powerful abilities. We found the combination of these characters work really well, and the gameplay is brilliantly tweaked to ensure each player has a clear role to play. While I was as soft as butter, Glenn could play the tank while I assisted from range. Cooperation is not optional here. Some enemies have shields only breakable by your colour, so sitting back and letting your partner do all the work, unfortunately, is simply not an option. Now, I mentioned gold, and the game rewards you at the end of each stage with a hefty chest of the stuff. Back at base camp, you can examine any relics you've found which offer modified abilities, or you can spend your cash on upgrading your character. One thing that we both enjoyed was that as you are always earning money that rolls over each time you die in combat, towards the end of our 5-hour stint, we were stuck on one particular boss for around 40 minutes. But rather than be just pure frustration, instead we were always accumulating gold, so that when we finally finished it, it felt doubly rewarding. At to this, the game, almost like an RPG, has your most used skill gain hidden XP, and occasionally you gain mastery points which level these up. These two elements combined made the game far more compelling. The next element is the difficulty. Rarely have I played a game that seemed to nail the challenge so perfectly. We would lose a round, throughout which there are regular checkpoints, only to just nail it the second time round. Not because it got any easier, but your strategy improved and your teamwork just worked. If you do get knocked down, your health recharges slowly over time, but will stop when it reaches 99. Your partner will need to do that last 1%, or if the opening provides itself, get you up much more quickly by holding RB by the down teammate. The world can be slightly non-linear, with hidden treasures around every corner for those eagle-eyed gamers. Boss fights are intense, skin-of-the-teeth encounters where everyone must pull their weight, during which the experience can resemble a bullet hell shooter at times, but also expect to be strategizing to conserve the valuable health pickups attainable by breaking these. Now thankfully it is shared equally between all the players, as once they're gone, they are gone. What doesn't work as well, gameplay-wise, it's generally good, and while not necessarily a negative, some of the level design, it can be a little bit too constrictive. While this, as I said, is generally intentional, occasionally a checkpoint won't follow one of these challenging sections, and if you do have to repeat it, could lead to some frustration. Thankfully though, as mentioned, we found we always overcame, usually much more easily, on our second or third attempt. This is probably one of the most fun and easy to pick up co-op games we've played together. Gameplay scores 18 out of 20, and those tight controls also score 18 out of 20. The game looks and sounds the part. I'm almost bored of saying pixel art, but thankfully here we have a hybrid of sorts. The word hybrid epitomizes this title in almost all areas, come to think of it. Visually then, the mix of hand-painted with pixel characters is generally effective and is a visual improvement over the developer's other title, Rogue Legacy. There are a ton of different terrains, enemies are varied enough to keep it from looking too generic, and the camera work often pans out, showing you large swathes of the scenery. Variety is the real standout of the visuals, as you never know what to expect next. While the audio is solid and weapons and enemies are all fine, I wouldn't say audio or visuals are standout in the same way a title like Bastions are. Audio is generally forgettable here, and while the visuals have the interesting mix of sprites and hand-drawn, there's nothing that hasn't been done better in titles like Octopath Traveler. Overall then, audios and visuals score a combined 14 out of 20. The game retails at $19.99, and for some reason I can't yet find a UK price, but at $20 this is a touch more expensive, but also not surrounded by a huge amount of competition for what it offers. The co-op experience is very good indeed, and if you're a fan of beat-em-ups or action RPGs, this falls nicely into both categories. There's a good deal of progression, and the difficulty, as mentioned, is spot on. You're looking at quite the expensive game, and while we didn't finish it as a game with friends, the potential for replayability is high. Throw in online and local multiplayer, and there is tons to come back for. Value scores 16 out of 20. So on to the final verdict. As a co-op experience, Full Metal Furies excels above many other Nintendo Switch titles. It's more fun than Titan Quest, controls as well as Isaac, and has the longevity of Die for Valhalla. What it lacks in story delivery, it makes up for in pure fun and challenge. Unfortunately, in single player the experience is understandably a more muted one. But as mentioned, online multiplayer, local play with a friend, and up to 4 players makes for a very fun package indeed. Overall, it scores a switch-up score of 80%. If you're a big fan of co-op games and maybe missed our list, check out this video that has our top 10 co-op games on Switch. Glenn and I really appreciate the support all of you give. Remember, we give away a free game each month to the subscriber most active and engaged on the channel. Thanks guys for all things Switch all the time. Keep it Switch up. See ya!